You know what you get when you cross Lassie with a pit bull?
What?
You get a dog that chews you to bits and then goes for help. That's who they were and what they were.
And comedy has changed so much. You can see in an old Marx Brother movie, they're pausing for the laughs in the movie.
Excuse me. Can I quit this podcast?
I told Eddie Murphy to stay in college so he'd have something to fall back on. I did great advice. Jackie, how about the lighter side of history? The lighter side.
I'm done laughing at my joke.
Okay. I know a lot of things and I share them on the podcast and you don't care.
What are we talking about?
I can't get a word in edgewise on this show. I mean, it's...
Here's how we sell it.
Okay. And could easily have played a gladiator. And I was doing a reading, because we did dramatic readings in the class, and unannounced he walked in and sat in the back of the room when I was reading, and it suddenly went, Hamina. Wow, Charlton Heston. He was such an impressive actor. He did a promo for the college to raise money, and they gave him a script, and they had a big cue card for him to read. He goes, I'm not reading a cue card. You can always tell when somebody's reading. I was there, I saw that. You can always tell when somebody's reading a cue card. So he takes the script, and he goes and he stands in a corner for like 3 minutes, like this. Then he turns around. I got it. Looked in the camera and nailed it in the first take. I thought that was, and it was a fairly long promo to raise money for the
I didn't know where this was going.
No, I was so impressed with
Somebody
Charlton
told
Heston.
me a story so long ago, and of course, it's the kind of story that, of course, everybody would pass on. I have no idea if there's the least bit of validity.
Yeah.
But somebody who worked in makeup and hair, or had a friend that worked in makeup and hair, said that he was so vain that when he was doing some movie, when they put his wig on, they had to put the wig on over his wig. Which is just, it could be cherry. Maybe his wig was glued to, who knows what. It's just it's too good a story to not,
It's got to be true.
Right?
It's got to be true. I love it.
Mark Twain said that he could live for a month on a good compliment. And, when times are rough and tough or whatever, I find that, if somebody really good or, it's so funny how people can tell you you're good or bad, blah, blah, blah. But when somebody tells you you stink, all of a sudden they have such a power. If somebody says, you were so great last night, thank you. But if somebody says, you really stink, like their value goes up in estimation. I've heard so many people talk about that, which is so wrong, because we're all crazy. It's
all the comedians watching this will understand this. You'll definitely understand this. I've done some radio. You've done tons and tons of radio. And it's different from stand-up. With a live audience, you get your feedback right away. They're laughing. You can hear them. Okay? When you're doing radio or even a podcast, you'll hear weeks or even months later, that bit you did about so-and-so, when you mentioned Mark, that was great. Hey, that was 3 months ago.
Well, you do a movie, you deliver a line.
Right.
With any luck, you see it in 2 years. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a different dynamic.
And even what I used to say this, because a comic could come up with an idea or a bit or whatever, and I can't wait, and then they go up and do it that night. Like on the Stern Show, if something went through my mind, I'd write it down, and in 10 seconds, millions of people are laughing, which is so ridiculous. And it didn't matter if it stunk, because there was another bus coming along.
Right, absolutely.
But what I was going to tell you, I got the nicest compliment, one of the nicest compliments I ever got. It's always fun when there's a happy ending, because that same stage that Soupy fell off of, this stage in the dining room at the Friars, and it was one of those things where there's like 2 or 3 or 4 acts, you know, like Eddie Brill and me and whoever. And I go up, and Stiller and Mira are sitting here. You know, I mean, if I put my leg out, I would have kicked them in the jaw. And they're just immense, you know, but not just immense. Jerry is now, you know, between Seinfeld, I mean, he was such a character, but my God, there's nothing funnier in the world than watching him go from 0 to 60,
right,
as George Costanza's father. But they're sitting there, and I'm doing my jokes, you know, not long. I probably did 12 minutes, 15 minutes. That's what we all did. And they were laughing, and I was so thrilled. And after the show, he came up with the weirdest compliment, and the weirdest comment that I'd never thought of, and I've never heard it since. He said, "You're excellent. Your timing, no wasted words, excellent. But you know, each of your jokes is like a short play. You know, like the longer jokes, you know, it's like a short 1-act play." And I never thought, you know, there's a couple of characters, and there's a beginning and an ending. And I was like, wow, that was, not that it meant anything, but so Jerry, you were paying attention. You know what I mean? It's like, you know.
You remember the Bill Boggs show on Channel 5 before the Fox network even existed. But they had a show, and they invited a few new comics, and I was very new. I'm sure less than 2 years doing it, not very good. But we were going to perform about a minute or so, and then we were going to be critiqued by Tony Randall and Stiller and Mira. And Mira was there.
So this is not Comedy Tonight. This is
the
Bill Boggs
this
show.
is the Bill Boggs show. It was more like a talk show. And so it's time to do this segment, and Bill Boggs explains, we want you to watch these young comics and critique them. And Jerry Stiller goes, well, I don't know if I can judge them because comedy is subjective. And Tony Randall, I'll never forget, goes like this. I'll judge. Got a big laugh. And I did my 1 minute, and Tony Randall went for the laughs about my little bit. And Jerry Stiller, now it's his turn, and he talks so nicely and so encouraging. I can't even remember exactly what he said because I was kind of overwhelmed with how kind, he was kind and encouraging, you know, and it's just a memory I'll never forget. I mean, it was funny what Tony Randall did, but Jerry Stiller was kind. That's what I remember is his kindness, you know.
He was around a long time, man. We did a show, Morton Downey Jr. Do you remember him?
Oh yeah.
So Morton Downey Jr., the premise they came up with was they wanted some young guys to do their acts, but dirty guys. It was me and Otto and George. For you, whoever doesn't know, Otto and George, Otto was a little guy with George, the most vile ventriloquist dummy in history.
George is the dummy. Otto, it doesn't sound like it, but Otto was actually the real human, and George was the dummy.
Well, give or take. So, so we're on the Morton Downey Jr. show, and we're going to be judged by Freddie Roman, and I think Stewie Stone, and there was a third guy, and I think his name was Don Geronimo. I'd have to check on that. And they're going to watch us, and then they're going to ask us why we have to work blue.
Okay.
This guy, Don Geronimo, worked at the Aztec Lounge in Hollywood, Florida in the 70s. And my buddy Archie, my sister's boyfriend, used to go to Florida with his father. They'd go to Florida to fish and everything. And they went to this Aztec Lounge, and there was this filthy comic who sold his records at the end of the show, and Archie brought me home a record, of course, to his friend who tells dirty jokes, and it was this guy, Don Geronimo's album full of filthy jokes, okay? He probably sold 15 in his life, and I have one of them. So here we are, on Morton Downey, and here's Morton Downey in his red socks, and he's running around, and they said to us, be as dirty as you want. We'll edit whatever. I don't think the show ever aired, although I think it might be Googleable. I'm not sure, or YouTubeable. But it was me and Otto, and I don't know who the third person, I can't believe I don't know who the third person was, but we did just a few minutes of our acts. And then it was like, you know, Freddie, you know, listen, there's no real reason to be obscene or blue, you know, comedy, you know, it was kind of a goof, like, you know, and then Don Geronimo goes, yeah, you know, that's absolutely no reason for anybody to work blue. And I said, hey, Don, tell me if this sounds familiar. Well, give him $40 because he's shitting your pants too. He went white. It was a great joke that I had been using my whole life from his album. And like his face dropped, and I think I just said, you know, I think I just smiled and said, well, you know where that's from. And God, I would love to see the show because, you know, what were the odds that you know, because comics don't buy comedy records, especially full of jokes, you know.
Maybe our show here will inspire some of our viewers to Google or YouTube Otto and George, because they're gone now, but they were classic, they were different, they were so bad, and that's how powerful the dummy is. I'm saying they, and there's only one human being in the act. They were so bad they were good, like Springtime for Hitler and the producers.
And he was so talented as a ventriloquist, but he was not talented as far as the mechanics.
Yeah, he didn't care.
Because he
moved his mouth, you know.
And he was pretty much of a drug addict or a drunk or whatever, or coke, whatever. He had a lot of problems. But George's mouth got broken. I don't know if you remember. For a couple of years, George's mouth was broken and it would get stuck. And instead of getting fixed, George's mouth would get stuck, and he'd reach over and have to close it, and then the dummy would yell at him, you stupid drug addict, you can't get my mouth fixed. You know, and so, the dummy would yell at him for being too high. It was kind of an out-of-body experience. But they're replaying some of these old shows. I don't know if you ever did it, but it was called Otto and George's, not Playtime Lounge. It had some weird name to it. My friend Bobby Capelli produced it, and it was a talk show. But Johnny Carson, Otto and George were Johnny Carson. So you're sitting there, and I have a ventriloquist dummy, and I'm interviewing you. And you couldn't look like anything but a moron because George is interviewing you. So if you're talking to him, you're talking to a puppet. But if you talk to Otto, you're being rude to, it was so uncomfortably funny. I know those are Googleable. Otto and George.
This is a classic story, but it's true, and it's the ultimate example of psychological displacement. Otto and George started out as street performers. George was an insult dummy. Of course, Otto's doing the talking, but one person on the street got so angry at the dummy, at George, that they stabbed George the dummy.
That story has been around for, it's just
but it's true.
No, I mean, just think of what kind of moron, but the same kind of moron like me that's standing there talking to the dummy while I'm getting interviewed, and you know.
And the knife went into Otto's hand. I mean, he had
it's just classic.
You know, so it's not exactly a happy ending.
If you want to see Otto and George, there was a great movie from 1990 called Comedy's Dirtiest Dozen. And a lot of the people in there went on to, like Tim Allen was in it, and what's his name? I hate this. Otto and George, Tim Allen, Thea Vidal, Bill Hicks. Chris Rock.
Okay.
I went on 12th. I went on 36th. It was a 7-minute, there were a couple cameras, but there were 7-minute canisters. So you had exactly 7 minutes. So Mike Egan came up, got the crowd stirred up to bring on Ben
Creed?
Creed. Ben Creed introduced the first act. They reload the cameras. Mike Egan comes up, gets them revved up. Ben Creed comes up and introduces the second act. So I was the 36th person to take the stage. You know, Egan Creed 1, Egan Creed 2. I think I got on at 4 in the morning. But what a night, you know. But it's definitely, I think you don't have to pay, it's like Googleable. And it was, you know, it was filthy and fun and crazy, you know.
You know, but you talk about Otto and George and his genius and the fact that he was unique, he truly was. But we did a gig far out in New Jersey, and I was driving him back home at the end of the night, very late. And as we're approaching New York City, he said to me, just drop me off here. I go, Otto, we are under the George Washington Bridge in the middle of nowhere. Drop me off here.
In a horrible neighborhood.
In a horrible neighborhood. Nothing I can see. I thought you're joking, right? No, drop me off here.
And he's not about to pull out his cell phone.
No.
Even if he's looking
just,
for a dealer, he's not going to call him on his cell phone. He's going to be going.
He's got to find somebody. I just remember that. I don't know what to say.
And what could you do?
What can you do? What you can't really do.
We kind of had a bond because we were both very dirty. So there were places and people that would not book us. So we had like not a good bond, you know, like it sucked. But we got along great. But I also used to book things. And I booked, you know, bars and whatever. And I loved the guy, and I couldn't book him. Because by the third time that he just doesn't show,
yeah,
you know, that's a really weird. Did we talk about Mark Center?
Mark Center, I know this character, if you will. Go ahead. No, we have not. Do it.
Mark Center it's a very worn expression, a comedian's comedian. But in some cases, that's a guy who says things that the other comedians find funny and people don't. And unfortunately, part of the reason might be they found it funny because the people didn't find it funny. Because we'd sit in the back of the room and howl, you know. And this guy's, one of his great jokes that isn't even hardly a joke at all, but we would scream. He'd stand on stage and yank up the microphone wire. And he'd say, right now, a comedian in China is being yanked to the floor. So we scream. So I book him at Governor's when I'm running Governor's, and no laughs. So, you know, Jimmy or whoever at Governor's like, don't bring that guy back here. Don't book that guy, he stinks. So I'd have to wait X amount of time.
And you'd bring him back anyway?
And I'd bring him back, yeah, because they'd forget and they go, this is that guy, don't bring him. So he had so much trouble getting work because he didn't get laughs. And this is a true story. I went into the comic strip one night, and he was there, and he said, I got to tell you, Jackie, I just got a job as a department store Santa Claus at Macy's for 2 weeks. And I said, really, Mark? And he said, yeah. It's great to have something steady.
What a great line.
And he knew how funny it was.
Oh, that's a great line. That's a great line.
Terrific.
When I think of department store Santas, I think about the welfare state, because I knew a guy who was a department store Santa, and on December 26th, he was able to go on unemployment. You know the job is ending. You know it's a temporary job. You expect now to be paid by the government because Christmas came? I mean, sometimes our generosity in this country goes a little crazy. That's like vendors at Yankee Stadium going on unemployment. When the Yankees go on the road, you can't plan for that in your life?
That's I had no idea that that's true.
Yeah, it's true. It is legal. That's absolutely true. There are some comedians, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Comedy is subjective, and there's some comedians that just drive you out of the room. People may think they're funny, but for you, they are fingernails on a blackboard.
And I'm not going to ever mention names, but there are like, what are they laughing at?
What are they laughing at? And
this is people that it floats for different people. For what you think, what I think, or but this is while people are screaming, standing ovations, and like, are they hypnotized?
And some comics.
But that happens. There's people like, when I'm doing well, they're like, what the hell are they laughing at?
Well, I mean, you can hear the audio response. That's how you know a comedian's doing well. But and I don't know if you want to use names, comedians who don't get laughs, and yet they still get booked. And in the case of Mark Center, it was because you found the guy funny and you were booking the room.
Right. Doing him a favor.
Doing him a favor, but also you found him funny. And you found him funny maybe for the wrong reasons, because it was so bad it was good.
But there were jokes there, but it's such an insult, but he was such a sad sack.
I know.
But bombing is so weird because you can dig yourself into the hole. You can go down the rabbit hole. We were working at the comic strip one time, and I have the review from that night I saved. It's just among my crap. The guy made note of this, whoever wrote it. It was the same guy who wrote up about the Fort Lauderdale comic strip all the time. There's millions of articles he wrote. But it was Joe Bolster and John Heyman had been on the road with Jenny Jones. And they had a He-Man Woman's Hater Club, They were so funny, they were so cool, and she was so untouchable because she was so beautiful, and they had no idea what to say to a girl. So they shut her out. And by the time they had been on the road for 3 or 4 weeks, when they got to Fort Lauderdale, here's this beautiful girl. And me, I didn't do anything with her, but I was so friendly. I was like such an oasis. So we're having such fun. And one night, it was really full, and Heyman went up, and he just got off on the wrong foot. And they weren't laughing. And he like a little caustic. So I guess he must have come back at them a little bit. And I don't know whether there's, nobody ever says, hey, Bales is killing in the room. When somebody says, hey, check this out, Heyman's eating it. So we come out and he is getting zero. And I mean, it's a packed room. And at some point, somebody laughed a little bit. He said, oh, thanks a lot, pal. That's like giving an aspirin to a cancer patient. Which immediately further put him in a tank. So he bombed so badly, and I was next. And I think it was so long ago, I think I might have even been wearing my guitar. And on my way up the stage, he's coming down the steps, and he goes, good luck, they're ungettable. And I said 2 words, and they were screaming. And I think he's hated me ever since. But it was like, sometimes if you just dig a hole and they decide, and then I'm sure I wasn't funny. I wasn't him.
Right. That's exactly right. At Standup University, we call that making a hostility mistake. He made a mistake. He insulted somebody that everybody else liked and lost the crowd. And in that case, it is really, really, really difficult to get them back. Woody Allen used to say, if I can get one table, I can get the whole room. And you want to hear advanced comedy. Really terrific comedians can do this. I've seen Jerry Seinfeld do it and Larry Miller do it. The great Larry Miller at the comic strip. Rowdy room, everybody talking. And they would go up and they would deliberately lower their voices to almost a whisper, so the audience would have to stop talking to each other and
Hutton.
listen.
E.F.
E.F. Hutton. That is really advanced comedy technique. I love it.
If I hit a slow point, or if I told a joke that didn't get a laugh, I'd say, hey,
Yeah, I know say it.
You don't laugh at these jokes. You paid to see me. If you don't laugh, who's the idiot? Not me,
Or I know these jokes work. I'm testing you.
Oh yeah.
I'm
That's
testing you.
that's one of the. I think I actually created. I know these are funny. I'm testing you, which is so ballsy.
But it's true, actually. This has been. I've had a lot of fun, man.
We will be back to see everybody on the same Bat channel eventually, and I can't wait because I thoroughly enjoy Peter Bales, and I am not sure why, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much, and thanks, of course, to our camera people. You don't say camera women.
People.
And I won't say camera women. I'll say thanks to our pretty camera women.
That's not appropriate.
I don't care. As Richard Belzer once said, and we'll end with this, physical science has yet to come up with a unit of measurement to express how little I give a crap. Thank you and good night.
Hey, a new episode of Stand-Up Memories every Wednesday.
How exciting is that?
It's starring me, Peter Bales, and right here, Jackie the Joke Man Martling.
Please follow us on social media. Search it out. What is it? MeSpace?
MySpace,
Your space?
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Doodah.